Good morning, everyone. My name is Anand, and I am welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group. Our today's webinar on residential and CNI solar project market outlook of Jordan has brought all of us together on this virtual platform to have insights from some of the prominent industry leaders representing various segments who are actively involved in driving solar mission forward in the region. Hope you had a great time networking with your peers in our exhibition launch. We will have those networking sessions again at the end of the sessions. Now, I request my team to please play the sponsor video.
It that takes us further into the future. It exists in every visible detail, and somewhere in the unexplored possibilities. We imagine countless times that dry deserts become lush oases, and now it has become a reality. Sunlight spur a new ray of hope, make the earth green, and breathe new life everywhere. The size from rural to urban areas get simplified gradually, conserve the nature, and ensure seamless connectivity. Turning complexity into simplicity. Modular construction of data centers is designed for an intelligent digital world to unleash cloud computing potential and to accelerate the smart future. Speed up for future transport. For every pleasure travel, green power is used to achieve an excellent experience. Modular power can be highly integrated and applied everywhere. To light up the moments you are looking forward to. Bring unlimited possibilities and make life better and convenient. Huawei Digital Power. Preserve Earth with technologies. For zero carbon, smart society.
So before starting today's proceeding, I take this opportunity to thank and welcome our partners for this event, Huawei and Solis Depot. Now, let me quickly take you through the agenda for today. We'll be having two sessions. Our first session will be focused on the residential solar projects in Jordan. And after that, in our second session, you'll hear our expert panelists discuss about the CNI solar projects in the country. And now, without any further delay, let's begin our first session. And this session will be starting with opening remarks by one of a well-known industry expert, who is Mr. Samir Zavaidi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Anand. This is a great opportunity to start the year with a fantastic discussion about the decentralized solar PV and especially rooftops. First, I would like to remind everybody that we have a global problem, which is the global warming. And CO2 emissions are the primary cause of this global warming. So we have to work hard, everybody on Earth, especially us engineers, in order to reduce the impact of this global warming in the future. And the best thing, of course, is to start with your own actions and install solar PV rooftops around your homes and facilities. This is also a strategic decision taken by the government in order to increase the dependency on the local resources and increase energy security. It's also in addition to the environmental impact, we have a great social impact. As you know, during the past 10 years in Jordan, we developed hundreds of solar PV companies, maybe close to 1,000 companies. And these companies are working in Jordan and regionally. So there is a big social impact, which is employment. And the third most important aspect or impact that everybody first looks at, which I'm mentioning last, is the economics. So the levelized cost of energy from solar PV is around 3 Jordanian cents or 5 US cents, depending on the size of the project. And if you go for larger projects, of course, this is economy of scale, and it can go to maybe 2 or 1.5. So with this, I like to invite everybody to participate in this solar PV future and install solar PV rooftops at their facilities and their homes, and use the technology which is available right now, and it's developing continuously, and it's becoming more efficient and cost effective. Enjoy the presentations and the knowledge that you will gain today. And over to you, Anand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind remarks and setting the stage for the event. Proceeding ahead, I would like to invite Mr. Omar Abu Nazam from Huawei Technologies and Mr. Rashid Al Bitar from Solis Depot to give their presentation. Rashid, sir, you can share your screen.
Okay. By the time while Rashid can he share the screen, first of all, I would like to thank you, especially Anand, for arranging this wonderful webinar, and I hope that we can achieve the target that we are looking for, so we can get and share more knowledge and technologies for our solutions, for our what we are providing to the market. Mr. Samer Zawaidi, it will be a pleasure, and thank you very much for your great words. Inshallah, we will all be working so we can support Jordan market to install more and go greener more and more.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Okay, actually, just to give you a background about the presentation that I will be presenting, and Mr. Rashid from Solis, technical manager at Solis, he will be presented as well. Our presentation will be divided into 4 main sections. 2 of them will be about Huawei as an overview and trend into the market. Then I will be giving the mic to Mr. Rashid. He will be covering the solutions that we are providing for residential and some parts of the commercial. Started with my presentation, first of all, about Huawei as an overview as a company. As you know, I will be starting my presentation with a very big and important note about the bankability of the partner or supplier that you are using. What we are seeing now, what's going on in the market, that gives a big indication for EPCs and installers and developer of the projects, that they have to look into consideration that I'm building a solar project that it will be standing for 20 years. So I need to search for a bankable partner and supplier for my equipment, so I can install it with no fear about what's happening on the future. Huawei as a company, it's ranked number 44 in our future global fortune. Number 44 out of 500 companies. We are 197,000 employees working under Huawei's umbrella. We are located in more than 170 countries and regions, covering all of the regions globally. 53, and this is one of the most important point about the R&D employees and R&D investment that Huawei is putting into the market. We're having around 53.4% of our employees working under R&D only, so they can give the latest technologies, latest technology into the market that can support the department that we are working on. And it ranked number 3 globally in the R&D investment. As you can see here on the left hand side of the screen, you can see how much Huawei sales revenue that have achieved during 2021 end of the quarter 3. We're seeing a very big jump between 2020 and 2021. We have achieved in 2021 up to quarter 3 around 70.4 billion US dollars, and that was included in the whole Huawei that covered 5G, cloud service, digital power, consumer business, and driving the ecosystem partner for the market. In my next slide, I will be talking about more about the digital power and department that the solar inverter located in. This is called digital power, and it's a newborn department that it's merged a lot of businesses for Huawei that focused on renewable energy. One of them is, which is the biggest one, is the smart PV systems, the data centers, the site power, the M power, and the embedded power. Huawei in digital power have achieved a very big jump in the sales revenue between 2019 to 2020. We're seeing the jump that Huawei has achieved during the past year. Okay. Next slide about Huawei, how much we have achieved during the past years. We have accomplished more than 200 gigawatt of inverter shipment globally, with the most important number that we are powering around 2,500 utility PV plant globally, with more than 1.4 million households that they are using our systems as an Huawei's inverter residential, and mainly 200,000 and more now that installed Huawei ESS and storage system, especially in Europe. We as an Huawei ranked global number 1 in the years from 2015 up to 2020, promoting only the string inverter, this is our main point, and we are seeing the market that it's going into the direction of decentralizing system and string inverter system to be installed, as we can see it in the utility scale projects. Okay. Then I will be moving faster to our trends and challenges that we are facing. As you know, the market is going into the I can call it like in the corner of the penetration rate. We know that if this increased, we have to implement the technologies, and we have to make sure that our inverter is supporting the grid more than just the energy generation. The grid problem is not just only for Jordan. It's a common problem that it's for global. We're seeing a big markets like now. We're seeing maybe in Dubai, we will see it in Pakistan, we're seeing it in India and in Europe as well. They are reaching to a point that the grid is saturated. So we have to find a way of supporting the grid, this is what Huawei mainly focused on, is that the storage system will be the turn solution for the solar projects in the upcoming future. And we hope that Jordan will be catching as well in the market for the storage. The main point of using storage in any projects is just stable grid stabling, and this is what we need as well to discuss openly and freely with the decision makers in Jordan about the technologies, about the storage, and how we can support the grid. In my next slide, okay. In my next slide, which is talking about more about the features that we can support our inverter in. We know that the common thing that we have to give an eye on it, which is about the safety. Okay, and we're seeing a lot of countries that they are applying latest technology for the safety. Okay, because as long as the projects or the solar systems has some materials like batteries, now we're seeing lithium ions batteries going into the market. We saw it before in gel and lead acid, and now we're seeing it in lithium batteries. You have to make sure that your supplier is complying with all standards for safety. And this is really important thing, not just only for supporting the grid, as well for the safety for the end user. We introduced to the market something called AFCI, which is arc fault detecting system, the response time of the inverter, and all of the features that it's coming with our storage system, which is Rashid. He will be giving more information about it, that supported and applies the latest technology of safety globally. And now our inverters are installed in countries that it's very strict with their regulation and standards, like Australian market, one of the hardest, and Japan. Those two countries, one of the they're having the highest standards of safety that they are applying for their solar projects. And we hope that this is something that it can copied here in our region, Jordan especially, so we can support more, we can give the value more to the customers and end users. And I think this is my part. Then the next part will be done by I will be giving the mic to Mr. Rashid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you for your part. I'm just completing what Omar was saying, mainly about the challenges that we are facing in our grid. Moreover, the features that Huawei provide in their inverters in order to enhance the PV project as a whole. So starting with our residential inverters, as you can see in our scheme here, we have, first of all, the PV modules connected to our PV optimizers. The PV optimizers, you can consider them as a DC to DC converter, where you can harvest the most amount of power from your PV modules directly to your inverter. So these DC cables, also in our PV optimizers, we don't need to connect any communication cables in the PV optimizers. The PV optimizers can communicate within the DC power cable with our inverter. Our inverter is divided into two sections: the Sun 2000 2 to 6 KTL L1 single phase inverters, and Sun 2000 3 to 10 KTL M1 three-phase inverter. And our residential scope of inverters are compatible also with the Luna battery. As Omar said, the problems with the grid of high penetration needs a fast response of power injecting and power absorption from the grid. And in order to shave peak the power from your inverter, we can use our Luna battery at this point. And also, in order to maximize our self-consumption, as we can see in this graph, using PV only, we can only feed 60% of our load from a self-consumption point of view. While using the PV storage plus the PV inverter plus the storage plus also the smart power meter that is also provided by Huawei, we can achieve up to 95% of our self-consumption. Second of all, in our PV optimizers, we can install, or we can use 70% of our rooftop more. So in our rooftop, we might have a complex rooftop where we have different orientations, or we have a shading elements. So in that cases, we can use the PV optimizers to minimize the mismatch effect and to do a long string design. What I mean by a long string design is that we don't care anymore about the open circuit voltage of our string, rather than the power of our string. So if we connected our PV optimizers to our whole string, we can increase the DC to AC ratio up to 200%. Plus, we can increase the usage of the roof, and we can connect different orientation to the same string. And even as we can see in the right-hand side of the picture, of this slide, we can see that the part one has a shading element. We can also connect it to the same string. Also, the PV optimizer does not only allow us to increase the space capacity. It also allows us to increase the energy harvesting from using different orientations or shading elements or soiling effect. These PV optimizers could increase our energy harvest by 30%. Also, we have our Luna battery. As we can see, the Luna battery mainly is divided into two sections. The first section is the power module. We can think of the power module as the brain of the battery itself. The power module can govern the charging and discharging cycles of the battery itself. It also have a DC power optimizer, where it can matches the voltage level of the three packs that could connect to it. These are the battery packs that we can connect to it. Mainly, these packs are 5 kilowatt hour in energy capacity, and they are connected in parallel. This battery also supports a new and old battery module mixture use. So, for example, if I was using one battery pack for almost 2 years and it has degraded the state of health or state of charge to 80%, we can always couple a new batteries, and these new batteries would not be affected by the trend of the old battery itself. Furthermore, as Omar has said, we need to give the safety features of the product a very good attention in order to avoid hazardous damage that can be happening on our site. So for that, our battery, the Luna battery, has a 5-layer of protections. So mainly, first of all, the chemistry of the battery itself is the lithium iron phosphate, which is a more safe chemistry of the battery itself. Furthermore, we have in our battery pack around 16 battery cells, and we have 8 sensors where in each 2 cells we have one sensor to monitor the cell level monitoring. Furthermore, in our battery, if we went to the site and try to disconnect the battery and try to measure the voltages outside the battery connectors, we can see that the voltage is 0 volts. This increased the safety of getting electrocuted for the maintenance people, and also for firefighters in case there was an electric fire on site. Of course, after connecting the battery to the inverter itself, then the inverter unlock the battery in order to give or to supply the voltage directly to the inverter. Furthermore, we have the internal short circuit diagnosis, where we diagnose at 24/7 the battery performance, the charging and discharging cycles, and we look into the short circuits that are happening in the battery itself. And at the final stage, or the last layer of protection, is a smart extinguishing bag. So, la samahullah, if there was a fire and it happened on site, so inside the battery itself, there's a fire extinguisher bag where will it bring the fire down in the system and will turn off the fire itself. And it will also, what Omar has mentioned already, as we can see in inverters and also in Huawei's battery modules. So as we can see in the left hand side of the picture, mainly the DC arc is a very dangerous arc. It's much worse than the AC arc because it's a continuous flow of energy. So mainly the DC arc could increase the temperature of the point that is happening on the arc around 3000 degrees Celsius, which could easily create a DC arc. So Huawei has analyzed the arc features that are happening on site, the frequencies that the arc noise is making on the DC cable, and we measured the AC component of the DC current in order to detect the arc that we are having on site. Furthermore, we have also an AI algorithm inside the inverters. With the AI chipset inside the inverter, we can learn new features about the arc, And whenever we do a firmware upgrade on the inverter, this inverter is gaining the new features to disconnect on a faster manner or a more accurate manner. And the response time for the arc for circuit interruption from detecting the arc, taking the decision, and disconnecting the inverter is less than 0.5 seconds. And I believe this would protect homes from such hazard fires. Second of all, I'm gonna move to the commercial and industrial smart PV solution. Mainly our inverters of this solution would be covering from Sun 2012 to 20 KTLM2, Sun 2030 to 40 KTLM3, Sun 2050 and 60 KTLM0, and lastly, our largest product in the C&I region is the Sun 2100 KTLM1. Mainly, also as we used the PV optimizers in order to increase the roof capacity and to decrease the mismatch effect caused by shading or different orientation, we can also use the PV optimizers in our C&I and in our rooftop project. Mainly our Sun 2012 to 20 KTL M2 and Sun 2030 to 40 KTL M3 is also compatible with our PV optimizers. My previous slides in residential, we can also connect more modules, and we're gonna have a longer flexible string design in our rooftop. Using PV optimizers on three-phase inverters, we can connect up to 10 kilowatt first. So, for example, our 20 kilowatt inverter up has 2 MPPTs and 4 strings input. We can connect up to 40 kilowatt peak on that inverter itself. Second of all is our PID recovery. As we can see, as we can know, that the potential induced degradation is affecting our PV modules, and it's a continuous degradation for our PV modules. It will never stop, actually, because of the migration of ions directly to the cell, and this power of degradation could be reversed by Huawei's technology. Mainly, Huawei has earth the negative pole of the PV modules, and has used a high residual current monitoring device on that to give the inverter the protection feature for the people that are interacting around the PV project itself. And using the built-in PID recovery with a very low amount of power consumption, around 5 watts night consumption, we can save our PV modules the headache of going through the PID effect. Furthermore, as I said, the output circuit interruption is not only a feature that is presented in our residential inverters, but it's also presented in our commercial and industrial inverters. Mainly in our rooftops, we can have the Sun 2012 to 20 KTL M2, 30 to 40 KTL M3, and 100 KTL M1 with the arc for circuit interruption feature. And what Huawei has improved for the UL 1699B standard, which is the American standard UL 1699 that talks about the arc for circuit interruption, and what to make it more suitable for the rooftop projects, where in the roof the DC cables is laying on the rooftop and is going down of this building. Mainly the distance that the Huawei inverter is able to detect the arc in is around 200 meters, where the UL standard is around 25, a maximum of 80 meters. And we can also detect the arc in higher currents up to 26 amperes, where also the UL standards only detects or only emphasizes about the inverters that can detect about 16 amperes. So Huawei did not only protect our project just to the standard itself, but it overcome in order to utilize it in our projects and utilize it in our sites and rooftops. Mainly, as well as the Luna battery, as I said, that it has a zero module level voltage shutdown. Also, the PV optimizers has a zero module level voltage shutdown. So whenever we turn off our inverter, or whenever there's a fault on the AC side of the inverter, and the inverter itself is shut down, the output voltage of the PV optimizers itself are 0 volts. This would give us more of a safety factor in our rooftop, especially if we had, for example, a fire that is happening on our roof. So it's safer for firefighters to go and to turn off this electric fire that is happening on the roof. Turn off. Furthermore, regarding our inverter, so Huawei has get rid of everything that is vulnerable in the inverter. What I mean by vulnerable, that has a very short lifespan in the PV projects or PV projects are designed to be working for more than 20 years. So basically, Huawei has get rid of the use of fuses, the LCD screens and the buttons, and also the fans, in order to decrease the failure rate of their inverters. Of course, Huawei has replaced these features with a more smart design. For example, for the no fuse design, we can use a maximum of 2 strings per MPPT in order to get rid of the backfeed current that might damage our PV modules. For example, for the LCD screen, Huawei has made an integrated software with an integrated application on our smartphones, where we can monitor everything that we need to monitor using our smartphones instead of LCD panels, because LCD screens mainly have a 7 years of a lifespan. Also, the buttons and the fans as well has been removed from our inverters in order to increase to decrease the failure rate of the inverter. Mainly, the failure rate of the inverter is less than 0.5% annually. Also, using PV optimizers, we can
Excuse me, sir.
pinpoint the fault, where we can see where the
Rashid sir,
yeah,
actually, can you please wrap up in
yeah,
like next 2 minutes?
and I
We are
can
getting late for panel discussion. Thank you.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I only need 2 minutes. Thank you. So mainly, the pinpoint fault is just detecting the artwork on a PV panel. So whenever the inverter is giving us an arc fault using PV optimizers, the PV optimizers can tell us which PV panel that has this arc fault. And finally, and this is the slide that I'm going to finish with, is our IV Care Diagnostic. The IV Care Diagnostic is an online tool where we can detect and do a 100% scanning on our smart string inverters to detect faults that is happening on our PV modules, such as hot spots, PID degradation, and Deutsch short circuit, maybe glass breakage and snail tracking. Also, we can do 100% of string scanning instead of doing a sampling in our conventional ways. And also the report that is generated, we can generate a 10-minute, we can scan a 15 megawatt power plant within 10 minutes and generate a report based on the faults that we can detect. Also, our faults are very accurate because of the high auto accuracy sensors that are installed inside the inverters. We can detect up to 14 faults approved by TUV. So we went to TUV, told them to test this online tool, and it was very. For my part, I would like to thank you all for listening, and to you, Anand.
So you can stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Omar and Mr. Rashid, for this insightful presentation. Now we move forward with our much awaited panel discussion. The topic of our panel discussion for this session is residential and solar projects in Jordan. And in our elite panel, we have Mr. Omar Abu Nazam, Sales Manager, Huawei Technologies, Mr. Rashid Al Bitar, Technical Manager, Solis Depot, Mr. Sameer Zawaide, Independent Engineer, Mr. Laith Basha, CEO and Owner, Elite Energy Engineering. This discussion will be led by Ms. Azza, Control Center Supervisor, Cover Energy. So before handing it over, I just have an announcement for all our attendees. If you have any questions during the panel discussion, please post them in Q&A box. Our panelists will take those questions at the end of discussion. Over to you, Ms. Azza.
Hello. Hello everyone. I want to say hi to all the audience for this. Thank you, Anand. And I have a fabulous group here. They are digging deeply in the Jordanian market as well. We are working together, knowing all the details about the residential sector, which we will focus on. I want to start with the main legal framework, which is governed all the aspects in the Jordanian market. And I want to start asking Samer about what is the perspective, what is the initiatives regarding the residential sector here in Jordan and how it's reflect on the market. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Engineer Azza, for this fantastic question. Of course, regulation and the regulatory market is the cornerstone. So we started in 2012 with the issuance of the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Law number 13 for year 2012, and our first residential system was installed on the 29th of November 2012. Right now, after approximately 9.3 years,
up to 10 years.
10 years, we have close to 900 megawatts of distributed
of residential capacity.
Distributed, yeah. So I think the by end of 2021, we had around 35,000 homes with the solar PV systems, but this is very low percentage if you compare it with about 2.5 million electricity meters or around 2 million residential homes. As you know, the residential sector consumes 50% of the energy of the electricity in Jordan.
Yes.
So
this is the point that I want to stress on, that the percentage of residential sector, the market segmentation is considered high comparing to the other sectors, and that's
definitely
why this is a market I want to say.
Yeah, definitely in the future we will see much more solar PV installed on the rooftops because of the increase in efficiency and a decrease in prices. So the increase in efficiency will allow more solar PV to be installed on the rooftops. For example, if we compare 10 years to now, 10 years ago, you needed 10 square meters per kilowatt peak. Now you need around 5, and in the future you need 4, 3, and so on. So more opportunities will be available for the larger segment. About 80% of our market is multi buildings. So so we have buildings with multiple apartments and
the apartment structural.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. With the increase in efficiency, I think this will be definitely will allow more residential to install.
Yeah, thank you. And this is will open a discussion regarding the financial support, or what we can say that the residential market segment from financial perspective. And I want to turn to Umar. Umar with us.
Yes.
Yes, Umar. Umar, what do you think about the opportunity from financial point of view to invest, to get some solar system from end user point of view and from service provider, from manufacturers? Can Can you
Yeah.
add on this?
Yes, what I can add, actually, we had it in Jordan before. We saw it in Jordan before. One of them, Jerry, for example, which is it was mainly just for supporting
You're
people to install solar systems. Especially, it was the segment for residential. Now we're seeing a lot of EPCs. They are going to make a development to be a project developer instead of doing it
right.
as an EPC scope, to go with a developer scope, so they can finance the projects. And this is will give an
Mhm.
end user a part of feeling that, okay, I will be investing as long as I'm paying the same amount what I'm paying for electricity. And this is
For
something
the
that
pill.
you exactly. يعني it can be answered from the politic way, okay, or government side, like Jerry, and we can answer
Yeah,
it in the system of changing the EPC scope.
you're right. That's will open something from my side that since يعني, I think 2 3 months I have some work around related to the green financing, but this is not directly covered the residential unless you will have some sort of project development. They can apply for the fund and they can get the finance
Yes.
from some sort of financiers, and this is what turns me to the tariff effect. I think Rashid he has some input in this regard. Rashid, what do you think that the new tariff structure here in Jordan, how this affect the market here, and this is affect directly the amount of maybe systems that will be installed later on because of the limitation which comes with the tariff.
Mainly, thank you, Azza, for your question. Mainly, like the government has previously worked very well on the residential projects, where in the approval process you don't need to do a GIS study, grid impact study, and the products or the projects that is less than 16 amperes, the tuition fees are refundable and in a sense are very low. On the other hand, well, that was prior to the tariff that we're gonna have in the 1st of April. For example, the payback period previously was 2.5 to 3 years for our residential investment, and sometimes even less
Or
than
maybe
that.
less, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes less than that, depends on your rooftop and how much DC capacity you can install on the rooftop. On the other hand, after this the new tariff has mainly put the users of renewable energy in a non-supported subcategory. This non-supported subcategory, if we are talking about the net consumption of less than 160 kilowatt hour, the customer is paying 263% more than what he was paying.
Mm.
So in that regards, mainly the new tariff will increase the payback period and will make our users think twice about investing in a PV project.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and that will open another point. I wanna ask Laith for his opinion about the battery and the storage part. How can affect this with not only the financial, even we are talking about adding some source of storage solution for a residential PV system, and this is will has both way. It will have its bright side and it will have its
Yeah,
backside. So I want to hear from you.
yeah. Firstly, I would thank you all for this invitation and this webinar. And actually, you stress in the point, Azza, and really, really very, very nice discussion. And that's what we are talking about every day, or recently, what I'm heard from people, even the people
Mm.
who have residential rooftop. Everybody now is looking for increasing their capacity. Everybody looking to find out a solution for being zero, let's say, for paying zero bill, zero electricity bill.
Mhm.
What I'm here now, and actually it's a kind of on a daily basis question. How can I connect on-grid system or hybrid system? Let's say we have a kind of two approaches here. On-grid hybrid system that's connected to the grid, and everybody know what's on-grid hybrid system, and we call it generally hybrid system. Many people now,
Even though I think there is some limitation by regulation using
yeah,
hybrid system
yeah,
here in Jordan, but I think the market perspective related to the storage itself to be connected to the on-grid system will be highly shining
yeah.
in the
You know,
coming future.
yeah. So you know the point that some people ask to find a solution to have a kind of instantaneous utilization of solar during the day more than connecting to the grid, because the main problem that you are talking about now is to have regulation. When you apply to the DNOs, you don't have regulation, and this is the problem. Um, the DNOs say, okay, send me your application, and then you cannot find any solution. Even you cannot get like refusal, like a direct refusal or a study. Even they don't ask you to go for GIS study. What I can say here, a regulation should be done, like a regulation committee should be established to discuss a way. Let's say at this time we can say a win-win situation between the DNOs and the customers, because coming back to the tariff now, if you generate or if you consume more than your generation using solar rooftop, you pay 12 cents. What's let's say $20 cents, which is for the
Yeah,
people is a large number.
it's
So
relatively high. Yes.
yeah, and finally, because I don't wanna take more time, smart monitoring. Sorry, smart monitoring. The DNOs now replacing all meters with smart meters, so they can do
Yeah.
now smart monitoring at low resolution, let's say low time resolution, such as 1 minute or 10 minutes. Then they can explore the demand side consumption, and then to facilitate and regulate the
Yeah.
the framework for using hybrid system. Yeah.
So this point will make a next step for the market perspective here in Jordan. We are talking about the smart monitoring, or what we call smart energy management or energy management perspective for the systems, and as a residential consumption itself. Also, we are talking about battery storage as a solution, as a supported solution. I want this question is for you all, and from everyone can have his own input. Uh, can we expect an expansion in Jordanian market related to the battery and storage system? We are talking about residential sector. And what about replacing or maybe getting a, a highly demand related to the operation and maintenance when we are talking about a battery system supporting PV or a PV system with a smart monitoring, which can compensate all the efforts and the team availability related to the operation and maintenance? This question is, I want to start with Samer. Samer, briefly, you have 2 minutes so we
Yeah,
can get the opinion from all.
yeah. I think that the Jordanian market is going to expand, definitely. It has to grow because we have two major items right now going on. The decrease in prices, increase in the efficiency, which is one item, and the second thing is the programs that the member has. So the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, they have two programs. One program under JREEF, providing 30% discount for
Right.
residential sector below 600 kilowatt hour, consuming 600 kilowatt hour per month. And the second program is for the families on national welfare, which we already installed about 5,700 systems for these families, and still we have long way to go because we have 125,000 families.
This is
So
a huge
the
number, yeah.
so definitely the market will keep growing, and I really ask everybody in the audience in Jordan to take advantage of these programs and install solar PV. Thank you. Over to you, Adna.
Thank you. Omar, you are a
Yes,
supplier holding a very well-known technology which can support both solution, the
yes,
PV system as a standalone and the battery
and
solution
battery.
itself, and also the fantastic monitoring system supporting Huawei technology. From your point of view, what do you think?
Okay, from my point of view, actually, احنا we're looking here as an Huawei as a technology provider, which is this is the thing that we needed. Actually, Jordan market, if we're talking about Jordan, or now it's copying into other Middle East market now as well. Like we're seeing it, we're
Mm,
seeing this problem of saturation in the grid as well in the other
right.
markets. We're seeing it far east in Pakistan, for example. We're seeing now within UAE, and it was already in Jordan. So the only way of getting this problem solved is supporting the grid more, and this is the
Yeah.
main thing that we have to look into it. We know that the net metering maybe in price wise is more affordable, but sooner or later the problem it will be go bigger. So if we would like to
Yes.
minimize the problem, we have to install solar. For sooner or later, yes, it will be a demand in Jordan. And if
Mm,
we would like to summarize this, yeah, the right direction now for any government, for any entity that responsible for regulation or regulatory, that they have to announce the storage regulation. So it will be a part for supporting the grid, and in the second part, which is gives more energy to the end user, especially with the
mhm.
new tariff that is going into the market now.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, you are stressing on a very important point when we are talking about Jordan's drafting now, the regulation for the storage, and we are excited to get this regulation launched because this will be a market. There is some sort of development will be comes to the market in Jordan here, and being part of this market from my side since 2013, I get a steps in that sort of development, and this will lead to Rashid. I want to check with you some sort of O&M point related to the battery system, and if you have some any other comments related to the question before. Do you think that using battery
Yes.
system, using storage support, will lead to an increasing of the operation and maintenance fees for the systems?
Um,
And what do you think in this regards?
mainly for the operation and maintenance fees. Of course, you're adding another item to your PV system, which mainly needs an operation and maintenance. On the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
getting a reliable product, such as the product from Huawei, which is we can consider as a zero maintenance product, where you don't need to open any port of the inverter or the battery itself. Also, the battery itself is IP66 rated, and the inverter itself is IP66 rated. So the maintenance is very minimum. It's just going to the site, checking the environment of the site, checking the heat sinks. If there's some dust, wipe them off, clean the system, and that's it
Mm-hmm.
for the battery and the inverter. So it would not increase our O&M prices that much, but it will also add a note to your O&M checklist to check also your batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding also the energy storage, I believe like it's an at the end of the day it's an integration for the grid operators, that it's a step that they need to do in order to provide a smart grid at the end of the day. So this is the image that I'm seeing in the maybe in the near future or in the far future. I can't have a good
It will
estimation,
come.
but yeah, but it will come finally. I hope so. That the grid operators will be seeing the generation of the PV power plant, and they will control it in order to have a regulated voltage on the grid, which is caused by we can see, like as an installers now, we can see some
Mm-hmm.
of very high voltages on the grid. Sometimes the inverter is seeing 270 volts on the AC side, and it disconnects. And maybe peak shaving the power itself, and and the grid operators to control these inverters generation, and also have a reactive power compensation in order to support the grid would be also a smart thing to do in order to make our grid stable.
Right. I agree with you. From operation and maintenance point of view, I can add a bit something very small. Yes, we can see the effect of the battery system. I think for the coming future, we are talking about large scale maybe effect, but the residential will come soon, and that's will end with Lathe. That I wanna stress on some small point that related to the inverter technology and the effect of selecting some source of inverters. How can this support the residential PV system? How can this add or make some added value to implement maybe at next stage storage, or for the reorientation of the building itself, to make sure that we guarantee a good amount of energy. Yes, Laith, you are muted.
Sorry. I think Huawei guys talked about a lot about the features of the inverters. I want to stress on some points. Actually, the rooftops here, there are a lot. There are compounds. There are many flats at the same buildings. So shading analysis or shading recovery, let's say, should be added. When I want to install my PV system at the roof, and there is no hope, because, or not no hope, there is a hope, of course, but there is a lot of obstacles. So I can
Mhm.
use optimizer, and I can use multi MPPTs based on the building orientation. Another point, which is really important, people here are looking for the minimum or the lowest capex price. They don't look even for the residential sector. After that, they don't care, or they don't give more attention to the OPEX by using an
Mhm.
intelligent inverter that can provide monitoring, very smart monitoring, and can detect the failures. Would be, with, let's say, a minimal increase in the price, could be a solution to have the solar project for 20 years with a minimum OPEX price. Also,
Mhm.
I need also to stress again for the point of future, a, a- an intelligent inverter with smart monitoring even can support the DNOs, and can find a solution to have the, what we hope, the regulation to move, or to go to the hybrid and storage system approaches. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Laith. Yes, I wanna close this discussion with some sort of experience related to the installed small system as well. My background is operation and maintenance, and with the huge capacity of small and large system, we notice very much related to the operation and maintenance on the small system. This is which has no clear contract. It has some sort of lack of monitoring. It has some sort of instability in some small aspects, which reflect directly to the energy generation, because the follow upping on this system can affect it. uh, I wanna check with you all that, and stress on some small point, that this is a future of Jordan market related to the small system, the residential PV system, where we will have many supported program here in Jordan, as Samer mentioned, and the others, and the technology will support this source of technology and getting developed in this market. And it's open for you, my colleagues, to, if you have some additional note to add, and then I will check with the audience to have their feedback and questions. Samer, Umar, Like Rashid, do you have any additional comments from your end?
Um, I have one comment. With the increase of rooftops and solar PV, we will start having a duck curve in the load. The solar PV will impact the demand curve, and it will reduce the demand curve, and we will start
Yeah.
seeing so sort of a dip, which they call
Yeah.
the duck curve, and this will also impact the larger projects, the
Mm-hmm.
utility scale projects. So actually, what we read in the more developed markets is that the solar rooftop markets will lead to curtailment of
Will be
the.
dominant.
Yes, and definitely the solar PV are more important because they have a larger impact on the society, and they empower the people in a much more positive way. So that's from my side. Thank you. Over to you.
Agree. Yes, Omar, what do you think? Your last
On my
comment
last
here?
comment, I think Mr. Samer he made it clear already. يعني my
Master, Mr.
last
Sam.
my last point will be like we would like to see something like as Mr. Samer said, Jordan is a market that can handle these types of technology, that can be tested, these types of technology. We saw already the growth in Jordanian market, and we're hoping to see it as well in the near future for the new
Mhm.
technology. What my comment will be is about we have as an society, as an regulator side, or how to influence the market for the standards of safeties that we are talking about. Like when the project or when the residential system going to be using some kinds of batteries, some kinds of different types of inverters, that the technology is totally different. So we have to make sure that he's having the best quality and technology that can support him as well. For the safety,
Right.
it's the first purpose.
Yeah. And Rashid, thank you, Omar.
I think my colleagues has covered everything that I want to say. I just want to summarize my thoughts. Mainly in the Jordanian market, we have seen the capability that we have in the Jordan, from engineers, from grid operators. We have the power to develop this sector to be more smart, to be more involved in energy generation and energy storage. So I believe what I hope for in the near future is implementation of energy storage in the market, and a cooperation, of course, between the OEM, which is the equipment manufacturers, and the grid operators, in order to develop a standard that would introduce the energy storage systems, and will enhance the usage of PV power plants in the Jordanian market, in residential.
Yeah, we all hope. We all hope this. What about you, Liz?
Yeah. Okay, finally, I can say, as everybody said already, we have the base, we have smart people, we have um, we have everything about solar, either rooftop or commercial or CNI and utility scale project. We have a lot to do. We have, let's say, a very big data bank that we can improve and move to the second or the future approach, such as storage and even smart grid, which can
Mm-hmm.
support all about energy. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with the near future, the the amount or the capacity of the residential sector will directly affect the grid from stability point of view, maybe, or it will support the grid on the peak load, where Mr. Samer said about the curve effect of the residential part as well. This is must be monitored clearly notified from grid operator point of view, and this is, I think, a challenge and a market perspective
You know,
from the general point of view.
Azza, I want to add a very important point, by the way. When you apply for the DNOs nowadays, they said, okay, this area or this zone is blocked, so you cannot install even 3 or 5 kilowatt. Enhancing
Yeah.
or regulating the storage and hybrid system, as even Samir, what Samir said, you can find out a solution to allow more people to utilize solar when using hybrid or storage system aside. And that's very important point to be considered in the future.
Yeah, that's right. Before closing, I wanna check the question box. So the Q&A box that we have. I wanna ask. Start from the end with Engineer Saad Salaiba. He is asking about the demand of modules recycling here in Jordan in the few coming years. What do you think about this? Even there is some sort of recycling regulation here in Jordan from the Ministry of Environment
Um,
as a hazardous material.
yeah,
Just a quick answer, Samer.
definitely recycling will be very important. Right now, we have, as I said, we have 400-500 companies, and each company has some broken panels. But the lifetime of the our plants, solar PV plants, didn't come to the recycling point. So maybe in 10 years or during the next 10 years, we will have a recycling plant in Jordan where we can strip the solar PV modules and any other component into its basic component and then sell it as scrap. And actually, there are many studies about the future prices of all of these components in the research. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay, and I think the question before we already covered about the market expansion and the most area for the investment as investment opportunity. Uh, as well, we are talking about the storage itself, the expansion of the capacity of the PV system, as well as the smart monitoring. And from my side, I can add the operational maintenance services for this sector. Um, if there is any other question, I cannot. I didn't get it. Anand, is there any additional questions?
I think Said asked about the high power modules and the compatibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I can answer it, but I prefer that maybe Omar or Rashid can provide
Yes.
a big picture about that.
Yeah, about the high power modules, we're seeing the technology that how fast is moving, especially in the modules on the modules market. Now we're seeing the high power modules. Later on, we will be seeing going up more than 550 to 600, 650. Yes, the inverter should be adapting these technologies, and now we introduce a new, not a new inverters, but a new generation of models that can be supported these types of high power modules. For now, we're having the M2 and M3, which is supporting these modules.
Right. But what about the recycle for the inverter from manufacturer point of view? We are talking about some inverters that's already with 6-7 years installed. From a manufacturer point of view, are you covering some sorts of recycling features?
From my understanding, just to let you know, because the warranty thing in Huawei in a way is
Say
different than any
something.
other. Yeah, in a
Yeah.
way it's different than any other supplier into the market, because if any defect inverter we're full replacing the inverter, and the broken inverter, it will be shipped back to our warehouse where it's located, either in Jordan, UAE, Saudi, anywhere the project is located. The broken inverter will be going back to the local office that it's responsible for that market. Then from the local office, it will be going back to China, and they will be like dismantle this inverter in a way that it will not be having something bad or environmentally bad in on its
Mhm.
on the system.
Because the electronics itself could considered as
Yes, and as hazard materials.
yes, yes, and the recycle approach where we have on the any devices that has some ICs and some smart boards or something like that, it will treat different.
Mm,
Um, and from my side, I hope keeping a developing market here in Jordan, and we are looking for future market perspective, either here in Jordan or on the MENA region, where we are a rich country in solar, and this is like petroleum as well. I want to thank you all the panelists. Thank you Hawaii team, Omar. Thank you Rashid. Thank you Samer,
thank you.
and thank you Laith for your valuable inputs in this regards. I know the residential sector is not that much famous like the large scale project, but here we are talking about the future step change that will make the residential or the small scale projects a dominant and controllable, even the most effective on the grid and the operators, because of the capacity of these smalls collecting these small systems. And I think we are within the time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you very much, all our esteemed panelists, for this wonderful session. And a very special thanks to Miss Azza for superbly managing the session. So the show
thank
is not
you.
over yet. We are taking a short networking break and we'll be back with another exciting session which will focus on the CNI solar projects. Till then, explore our exhibition launch, network with your peers, and join our sponsors on the networking table. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you all.
You all.
Bye.
Good afternoon and welcome back, attendees. It's time now for our second session. The topic of our panel discussion of this session is CNI solar projects in Jordan. And in our elite panel, we have Dr. Firas Bilashpe, CEO, FB Group, Mr. Omar Abu Nazam, Sales Manager, Huawei Technologies, Mr. Rashid Albitar, Technical Manager, Solis Depot, Mr. Hannah, CEO, Cover Energy, Mr. Gayat, Director, Jepco Digital and Renewable Energy Expert, Mr. Mohammed, Founder and CTO, Volta Arabia for Energy Solutions. So if any attendee has any questions, please post them in the Q&A box. Our panelists will take them at the end of the session. Now, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Firas to take the discussion ahead. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. And it's my honor to have Mr. Hanna Zaghlul, Engineer Raif, and all other speakers with us today. And I would like to start with Mr. Hanna. And we need from him exactly what is the target for 2020, and two questions for him: target for 2020 and understanding the financial options available for the solar projects in Jordan.
Well, good afternoon. Yeah. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Firas, for the
Yeah.
introduction. I'm happy to join this team and group to discuss about CNI in Jordan. And if we are to talk about the target, unfortunately today we don't have a clear target from the government concerning the CNI or installations that's to be done in within this year or probably. But if we go back into the strategy, it talks about 200 mega, not just for CNI, that's between 2020 and 2020, I think 3 or 4, and then there's another 200 mega between 25 to 25 and 27, something like that. And then there is another commercial ones, another 200 mega uh, from that date into 2030. So in total, within the next 8 years, we are talking about 800 mega to be installed. Clearly, nothing is being specified concerning the CNI in Jordan, but it's good because the approach of the government these days is to go for smaller type of projects, rooftops, and what have you. So definitely CNI might benefit out of that greatly, but we need to wait and see. As for the financing schemes that's available for the renewable energy project, the Jordanian central bank already supports such initiative, and they have allocated enough funds to support installation for commercial and industrial at a very low rate that he can lend that money into the local banks, and the local banks, after evaluating the projects, they can lend the projects, I think, around 4% or 4.5%. That's if it's within Amman, and if it's outside of Amman, it may reach to 3%. This is a very interesting low rate that project can be developed and established based on. Is that okay with you, Dr. Firas, or do you want me to continue on any other subject? Hello, Dr. Firas, you're mute.
Do you think that we already have achieved the target in 2020 and 21, the 200 megawatt?
Not still, actually, we achieved the target for renewable energy in Jordan last year. By our target was uh, less than 20%, and today we have around 22% that we have achieved. For 2030, we're talking about 31% of electricity is to be from renewable. So Jordan achieved its target at this space, but that doesn't mean we we don't have a potential to growth. Today, actually, if we have a behind the meter storage or we have utility scale storage, definitely you'll see a different type of market that's is going to be reshaped, and an increase of more projects that to be developed on all fronts, and CNI definitely will capture a lot out of that.
Does that mean that the growth up to 2030 will be very limited?
As per the strategy, yes,
Yeah.
because they have put it at 31% of the total electricity, which will be around 800 megawatt installed. Today we have around 2,300 something mega of renewable energy installed, out of which you're talking about net metering and some of them for the CNI, it's around 600 mega. And then you're talking about the wheeling, and the wheeling, it's around 315 mega. And most of the wheeling are for commercial, industrial, not residential.
Can I go back with you again to the financial issues? Do you think the outside financial institutes will support again the solar projects in Jordan?
What do you mean, the international financiers, you mean?
The international financing, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, today, if you look at all the international financiers, the available money that they can lend is going to be for anything that will support climate change and prohibiting more carbon emission. So Jordan has a great advantage if they want to go in that approach and benefit out of these low interest type of funds for such projects as renewable energy in Jordan. Definitely. I mean, it's no brainer actually that all these international financiers, they have a lot of money sitting, and they need to lend it to make more money out of it. Otherwise they're going to lose value and depreciate if they're going to stay where they are.
What about the renegotiation the prices with the old projects? is that will affect on the investors or financial institute that support the investors and the developers?
Definitely, it will have an impact and it will have an effect. But going forward, one doesn't know exactly how things will turn. But I think the Jordanian government so far it did maintain all its contracts on the energy part. The only part that they are,
Up to this
under
moment.
discussion and revision is the Atarat. Beyond that, all other projects for the existing IPPs they are operating fine. And for the renewable energy, even if they are to renegotiate the prices, it depends on the track that they're gonna go by. But that by definitely the investors they're gonna be involved in that. Believe it or not, a lot of the investors or a lot of the lending international institutions, they do understand where the Jordanian coming from, okay, government is coming from, because some similar actions been taking or has been achieved in different type of negotiation in other countries, okay. So, but it depends actually what type of offering that the Jordanian government would give in order to renegotiate these PPA, these already signed and approved PPA in that. So uh, I don't think that it will have an impact, but going forward, I think things will move afterwards as normal.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hanna, for your insight, Vision. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anytime.
Engineer Ghaif, you are the master now for the tariff. What do you think about the new tariff system? How that will affect on the industrial and commercial sectors? Can you explain? Can you give us more insight, Vision, about the new tariff system?
Assalamu alaikum. Good day. Thanks for today event. I do appreciate actually. Yeah, of course. Actually, if you need my personal opinion about what is the tariff scheme status today and how it would serve renewable or not.
Absolutely.
Actually, I believe that from my point of view, the tariff scheme shall be more dynamic and vivid indeed, due to many reasons. Number one, the storage regulations are not here launched, are not yet launched this year, which is really affecting the status of more penetration of renewable energy indeed. Number two, in order to encourage, we are talking about in this session about C and I. So in order to encourage more renewable, we need more expensive tariff, which is the contrary now. The industrial tariff is really cheap in comparison to cost benefit modeling of renewable energy, as I believe, of course. So my opinion about the pricing also, maybe the entire scheme need to be reviewed and changed indeed. I mean, current scheme would not serve all particulars and KPIs of energy and renewable energy targets.
It will have a negative impact on the project, in the solar projects in Jordan in general. Let us
It
take it
depends.
as sector by
Yeah.
sector. The house, for example.
There is a real interruption in your voice, Dr. Firas. If you repeat, please.
Can we take it sector by sector? For example, the impact on the future of the projects for solar energy is
Only
that will be
shall
have
yeah.
negative impact.
In residential, I saw it that it's encouraging more storage while there are no storage regulations. So it is slowing it down indeed. Because me as an individual has own house, when I install a new renewable system, PV as an example, on my rooftop, it would not serve me in the same economic way that I desire in the past. Or let us say, yani, after a new tariff implementation. Regarding industrial, it's if it is heavy industry has particular case actually. And when you are omitting the maximum demand for all industrial cases, I do believe that the energy bill will get really reduced. While what I could see that when you are activating such things, it will really encourage the direction of net billing. I mean, the example of all industrial entities are get collaborated in a new project 135 megawatt that each of them has own share of it on the wheeling scheme apparently, while it is sort of net billing in the future. So I see the direction, what is going on, and this is an observation from my side. I'm not a decision maker of it at all. What I observe that they are stepping into the direction of net billing step by step. This is what I believe. For commercial sector, still the tariff is expensive, and from cost benefit point of view, still it is really feasible with ROI more than maybe 20 or 15% per year, which is still feasible indeed. Anything further you need me to comment on? Dr. Firaz, you are hearing me, correct?
Yeah, right now, yes, yes. But can I have another question for you, honestly?
Yeah, please go ahead.
How do you see the network for the next 9 years? What
Actually, as
exactly
well
the
as
NIPCO and the distribution companies should do?
I cannot talk on behalf of everyone, but as an expert in renewable
In general,
energy, I believe,
yes,
yeah, I believe
absolutely.
that I could say a lot in this. Um, the world is going towards smart, and if we are going to a real smart grid, the situation will be totally different. I'll give an example. The technology of virtual power plant, the VPP, is a real rescue line or penetration point into much better control and short time controls on all grid nodes, including distributed generation, loads, even connection with the transmission grid, and so on. So, if utilities, especially distribution utilities, invest in virtual power plants, I believe that it will be real initiation of energy stock market on the distribution level, which will bring better investment parameters and KPIs on the floor. How this will come? Actually, if you control on real-time basis the generation cost at each node, this will make real competition. The distribution company will take benefit of it as well as all distributed generation IPPs. Even the net metering themselves could buy from a remote site and keeping their PV plant off for a moment when he finds that the cost is less than operating his own distributed generation and so on. Now, how I see the grids in the coming 9 years, I'm not the strategy chairman here, but actually, if the technology is coming all around the world towards the virtual power plants and more smart grids applications, definitely we must follow because actually it is either today or it will never go at all. So we need to work hard to make number one new regulations dynamic, vivid, and accepts all type of technologies as an example the energy storage. Number two, we need to make a real capex investment in smart grids, including AMI smart meters, virtual power plants, refurbishment of existing SCADA centers, and so on. This will make much better control by all means and will allow more renewable penetration without getting damages on certain parties. As an example, distribution company will not get affected very badly, as well as from economic point of view and technical point of view, as well as what is going on nowadays. In case of having, as an example, energy storage on all net metering and industrial and commercial campuses, if they have their own storage with certain regulations, I believe that this will serve the spinning reserve to make a solid state reserve, and it will increase the stability of the grid. Let us recall what occurred in Europe last year. The grid get into islanding situation, and it was about to get a blackout just because of having a renewable energy mix exceeding 32% at that time. Now, in order not to have same mistake and to get a proper lesson learned, I believe that we need really to work on very perfect regulations on energy storage and all the grid parameters, getting it really dynamic, nice, let us say feasible requirements in order to keep getting funding on renewable energy projects with the proper rate of investment and fast return. If we get restoration on 6, 7, 8 years, 9 years, it would be great. But for more, I think the projects will be within no-go situation.
It means I
I
can
hope that
understand
I
from you.
respond your question.
Yeah, that the future is smart, distributed, generated, and distribution companies. So,
It is
for
the only
example,
way
in
out,
Jordan, we have right
actually.
now
It's
three
the only way
distribution
out, Dr. Faras.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Yes. Okay, thank you,
And
Engineer
maybe
Raif, very much.
renewable
Thank you for
energy
your
or
insight.
international financiers maybe found that it is faster for them in the past 5 years to invest directly in renewable energy. But from a strategic point of view, I think international financiers should get a look on at which point of energy mix they will get frozen. And maybe it was on purpose or without a purpose had been ignored, and finally they stepped into a breaking point at which, from technical point of view, the grid would not accept more penetration, and from economical point of view, utilities found it really not feasible. So if you make both reasons together, it will mean a lot. So maybe it was better for international financiers to invest in smart grids in the year 2015, not today. Nowadays, they are trying to do
Engineer Raif,
such
I cannot hear
investment.
you. You finished?
No, you can hear me now? Hello, Dr. Firas?
Continue. No,
Dr.
continue.
Firas, I will repeat the essential point, which I believe. What I'm saying that maybe the international financiers ignored or forget or whatsoever to invest or to have a look on smart grid investment in the year 2015 until they reach to a point that it is a blocking point from technical and commercial point of view for all distribution and transmission companies, which made them suffering a lot of more penetration from economical also point of view, I mean, sort of losses. So if the investment was in parallel for both renewable energy and the smart grids in the year 2015, everybody will be happy today. While investment of zero money in smart grids since 7 years ago maybe made everyone in the blocking situation today. I hope this statement is clear to everybody.
Thank you. It is clear, I think, even.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Appreciate it.
Engineer Raif. I appreciate your
Most
your
welcome. Most welcome.
your participation. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Abu Warde, Mahmoud,
Yes, I can hear you.
it's your turn now. Uh, can you give us your opinion and your vision for the storage options in Jordan in the next 9 years?
Okay, if you want, first of all, good afternoon for everyone. If we want to talk about energy storage sector and development in Jordan, we want to talk first of all about the tariffs. Now, as we all know, the tariffs for C&I or for commercial industrial are going down. So this will make the growing for energy storage sector in Jordan slowly. The growing will be very slowly. Now, if you want to have a deep look about the industrial tariffs, the industrial tariffs are going down and will be no maximum demand charge. So the feasibility study or the feasibility project for this kind of project with energy storage, I think the payback period for this kind of project will be 9 to 12 years, which is make it unfeasible for the point of view of the end user. But if you want to take the commercial the commercial part and talk about the energy storage for this kind of project, I think it's feasible, and the payback period for this kind of project would be about 7 years. So I think in next years, the growing for energy storage will be for commercial, not for industrial, based on the feasibility study of the projects and based on the, let's say, about the payback period of this kind of project. Now, also, if you want to talk about something else about the life of this project. Now, the energy project's life for lithium-ion battery, let's say, this kind of project, the life for it, it's about 20 years. So I think in next 9 years or the next 10 years, there will be an expansion in renewable energy projects with energy storage. But as I mentioned before, the growing will be very slowly.
You have said that the visibility study for the industrial sector is about 12 years.
Yeah, actually, I did a lot of feasibility study for some projects here in Jordan, and about the all tariff with maximum demand charge or maximum demand charge, the feasibility was for this kind of project around 9 years. Now, if you want to reflect the new or if you want to reflect the new tariffs on this, yeah, I think it will take more 3 years to make the payback period. And the big problem of this kind of project, the warranty you will take it for the systems, it will be for 10 years. Okay, we all know the lifespan for this kind of project will be around 20 years, but the warranty for this kind of project will be 10. So if you will let's say is the break even for this kind of project will be 12 years, so it's 2 years above the warranty. So I think it will not be feasible for the end user. So that's why I told you the industrial sector, I think we have we will face, let's say, a very slowly growing in this kind of project.
But for the commercial sector,
I think
still valid.
Yeah. For the commercial sector, I think it's about 5 to 7 years. So I think it will be very feasible for commercial sector.
Okay. What is the lifetime of the system? It will be
20 years, and the aging factor. Yeah. But after 20 years, the system will lose around 30% of the capacity. If you want to say a 1 mega battery, after 20 years, you will take around 600 kilowatt hour. So if you want to talk about system with 1 megawatt hour, after 20 years, you will take 600, 500, 600 kilowatt hour.
And what about the battery, the lifetime of the battery right now?
Yeah, I'm talking about the battery, the aging factor. The aging factor for the battery, after 20 years, you will take 60% of the original capacity.
So no need at all to reinvest again after 10 years, 7 years, or 15 years.
The aging
it's
factor,
one-time investment.
Yeah, it's one-time investment. Actually, the aging factor for 10 years, it's around 20% to 30% based on the types of the battery. But for you will not do anything for 20 years unless you want to make an expansion. But it's one time, let's say, it's one-time investment. You have to put your money also for only for one time, and you will enjoy the electricity for 20 years or more.
Can you explain again, far away from the tariff system, what exactly the main challenges in the storage system in Jordanian market?
Yeah, if you want to back to the tariffs, now we have to divide it for two parties. Let's say first party, the industrial. The industrial now it's going down, and we will not, or will be no more maximum demand charge. Actually, as you know, the maximum demand charge around it was about 3 Jordan dinar for kilowatt, and for hotels it's around let's say also around 3.8 Jordan dinar for kilowatt. So if you want to, let's say, make a feasibility for this kind of project, you will take the invoice, or you will take an invoice for let's say, if you want to talk about a project, specific project, you want to take an invoice from this factory to check what is the maximum demand charge, what is the power factor correction, what is the day load, what is the night load. If you want to take to talk further about this four tariffs, we will not consider the maximum demand charge with a 3 Jordan dinar for per kilowatt. So the feasibility will decrease. And also about the day load and the night load, we also know that that will stay the same. But if we most of this kind of project, if we were working for the industrial sector, it was about to avoid the maximum demand charge, because most of them was pay around 20 or to 40% of their bills are around the maximum demand charge. So if the government will not letting them pay it again, so the project you have to add 40% extra for the investment, because you were paying before for the maximum demand charge. Now you are not paying, and the maximum demand charge, it was before taking from the old invoice around 30%. So that's why I'm talking about the industrial sector. It will not be feasible, or the feasibility for this project will take more time or more years to make the break even.
I have another question for you, please, regarding the regulations. What are the challenges that you are facing regarding the regulations, and when we can do expect a real and fixed regulations regarding the storage system from the MRC?
Actually, as I know now, they are working on the regulation for energy storage sector to make it available. I think in in a very short time. This is what I know. But we are also facing another problem. If you want to talk about energy storage in Jordan, we are facing another problem. We're facing the custom problem. It's around 30%, and we are facing the sales tax. It's not exempted. So this kind of project, you have to pay also for the custom and for the sales tax. I think they should consider this kind of project to be exempted. That will make also a good growing for this kind of project. Now, I think they are working on the regulation. I don't know when they will be announced, but they said it will be in this year, in next 6 months, but I don't know. The real answer is not with me. Do you hear me, doctor? I think. Do you hear me, guys?
Yes, sir, we are hearing you. Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can hear
We
you.
heard everything almost here.
I
Yeah, I
think
think we lost the
Firas sir has
connection.
lost his connection. Firas sir, can you hear me? Can you
I
please
think we lost the
rejoin?
connection with Dr. Firas.
And maybe I can raise some point until Dr. Firas get back to fill this
Okay.
gap, okay?
Okay, please go.
Yes, sir. By the
Actually,
time, can
from
you, yes, sir, by the time, can you please moderate also, like if you can ask few questions to Omar sir and Rashid sir as well,
yeah,
so to
yeah.
take the discussion.
Gratefully, I'll not be the moderator, but I can handle two things until Dr. Firas get back, inshallah. For the manufacturers, I have a question. Now, what is their role in re-preparing technical specs for regulators themselves? Why don't they have this, I mean, gesture to step in and participate in sort of off-record committee or whatsoever to prepare technical specs for the regulator. I hope
Thank you.
this point is clear.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the gentlemen could answer on that.
Thank you, Mr. Ghaith, for your question. Mainly,
Apparently, Dr. Firas gets back, so maybe he can rehandle the moderation again, yeah?
just to answer your question, Mr. Ghaith, we and Huawei team have already cooperated with the AMRC, and we've done many meetings with them in order to have the experience from outside of Jordan, the regulation from outside of Jordan, such as in Germany and in UK as well, in order to implement or have a very an image of the
Yes.
regulations that is going to be happen outside of Jordan. So we
If
have
you allow
we
me,
have
Mr. Rashid, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean the concept of involving everyone is the key success element. Maybe you need to involve all utilities, distribution utility, transmission, EPCs, and developers in doing the nice specs of renewable energy storage. Otherwise, maybe one of the parties will get into breaking mode against new specs and so on. I'm sorry again for.
That's correct. We are planning with Huawei team in the Middle East, in Dubai, to coordinate between the grid operators, the distribution companies mainly, and the transmission companies, sorry, NAPCO, as well as EMRC, to cooperate on regulating new energy storage energy storage regulations regarding the installation for distributed energy storage systems, such as the residential ones, the C&I, and as well as utility. Omar, if you have anything to add as well.
Like here, if I would like to add one point, like we worked with the Jordanian government to implement these ideas. Especially now, we are importing some successful cases. What we have done outside of Jordan, just to bring it to Jordan, and we as a supplier, this is our target, just to let everyone, either from public or private sector side, okay, to understand more what is the benefits that it's coming. And I hope that this, because the alignment it will be between the supplier and the government, should be through the distribution. Mr. Ghaith, like we're here for supporting for this. We're having the knowledge. We already had the successful cases outside of Jordan. We had the biggest projects in the world now in
Then
Saudi.
you are invited. Let us sit and meet, sir, at soonest. Let us talk together and maybe we can present your case in different way to the regulator themselves with more convenience approach. Let
Yes.
us make hand in hand, all of us, EMRC, MEMAR, your good selves, and distribution companies. Maybe this will lead into sort of a balanced model that would work technically. Yeah,
Yes.
it's important to know there are too many type tests regulated by IEC standards, and majority of them are very fresh and new, first revision. Too many updates on the IEC itself, which makes sort of inconvenience approaches for us as a utility, as we mistrust too many changes occurs on the international standards nowadays for those particular decent technologies and top notches. We feel that things still in the R&D and it took longer than usual. And maybe from electrical response point of view, things needs to be well managed and regulated in such a manner that protect the grid indeed. Yeah. I hope this is clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Ghaith, can I ask you another question, please, regarding
Please
the
go on.
grid
Yeah.
and the interconnection with the other countries? How do you see that, and what exactly will be the impact on the renewable energy share in our grid?
Um, uh, From my point of view, actually, the larger is the better. I mean, once the grid uh, volume is larger, this will serve too many KPIs and parameters from both technical and commercial point of views. Now, if we get interconnection with many countries, as an example, in the year 2002, NIPCO, I was an employee there. It was part of the Mediterranean interconnection plan, and it was something really nice if occurred. Now, if we invest the sunrise, sunset time dispatch and difference, it will be for the benefit of entire Arab League actually to make interconnection with the northern and western part of the other continent of Europe, because when we still have too many sunshine, we can export energy for them in the day peak, and also this would happen in the night peak. So if we superimpose the duck curve on the normal demand response curve, it will be apparently for the favor of us to generate photovoltaic electrical energy and export it to the northern part. So this is also applicable for the adjacent countries as well, while with less feasibility actually, because the dispatch of time and sunrise, sunset, sunshine hours will be a little bit different. So interconnection is something useful and essential actually for everyone from renewable energy investment point of view, and from also a spinning reserve, which means safe and secure operation point of views, which will allow definitely more renewable penetration at lower cost of investment. I mean, without too many energy storage. If you have serious spinning reserve from neighbored country as an example, maybe this will permit you to make sort of compromise on getting less energy storage requirements depending and relying on the interconnection point.
Thank
I
you.
hope my
I
response
agree.
serves your desire.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Engineer Omar, can you give us some examples of executed projects with the storage in the region? And let's start from Jordan, if there is any project already have executed by you in Jordan, and after that in the region, and the size of each one.
Actually, first of all, thank you all for having me here. Thank you, especially Dr. Firas, for this question. Actually, in Jordan, if we're talking about Jordan, for nowadays we're not having the technology that we are promoted applicable on ground, because we came with a technology which is called DC coupled system, and it works with the lithium ion high voltage system. Okay, in Jordan up to now, as long as there is no clear regulations on residential, I'm talking about residential or commercial utility, we had one project, not as in Hawaii but as in Jordan. We were having the northern part, north project, but as a residential commercial, I'm not seeing, if the regulation was not clear up to now, I'm not seeing it will be happen. Regionally talking, yes, we worked in too many projects. Not executed on the ground yet, but the idea and the design already submitted. What I'm referring to is the Red Sea project, which is the biggest storage project in the globe. Globally, with a capacity of around 1.4 gigawatt hour of storage, along with the 400 megawatt as in peak inverter, as in peak power, 400 megawatt. But other than this, up to now in the GCC, no, there is no. But the idea is coming up. Like we're seeing DIWA, they will be implementing a project as well. Abu Dhabi, they will be going to the storage as well. We're referring to Masdar. But this is, I hope that it's clear.
Can you confirm again the lifetime of the storage system? It will be 20 years?
Yes, it's based on 20 years design.
20 years design.
20
Without
years
any
design.
reinvestment, without any in the batteries,
Mm,
in new batteries, the lifetime for the batteries will be 20 years. And we are
yes.
losing maximum by 20 years, 30% of the capacity.
Yes, because the technology, like I'm not that technical into the storage solutions, and we're having experts that they designed and worked on these kinds of projects. I hope that we can have a chance, as Mr. Gaith already referring to have one session that include the supplier and the manufacturer side to share their experience in these kinds of projects, because actually this is the thing that it will be built on the market, the knowledge and the experience, and what we are seeing from the Jordanians experts outside, which is this is what we are referring to. We can build the smart grid.
Thank you, Omar. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Hanna, again, we will back to you. Just closing words. What do you like to say for the market?
Thank you, Dr. Faras. Actually, what I want to say is straight to the point that the future is renewable energy, whether people there like it or not. We cannot compete with something that's for free, and the solar is coming for us as a fuel is for free. Now, putting all these technologies together between the technology that produce electricity and the technology that stores electricity, and then the technology that manages, and the technology that actually transmit and manage that energy either on the grid or appliances or on storage or vehicles. Putting all these technologies together, and they are coming together in a way that I call information communication and energy technology convergence, ICET, and that will open a great opportunity, not just for Jordan, but for the whole world. And we have been seeing this opportunity developing in different parts of the world, in the United States, in Europe, in Australia, and they are taking advantage of it. And the transition of electricity is taking place. This is the only way forward for us as a humans, also in order to fight climate change, and in order for us to bring a better life, not just for us, but also for our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Engineer Raif, again, back to you. Can you summarize, please, your vision again? Smart grids, distributed grids.
Of course. Yeah. I do believe if we will speak from distribution companies' point of view, the future is always going towards distributed generation and smart grid. This will definitely enhance a lot all sort of renewable energy generation on the distribution grid, and it will improve the penetration. Number two, I do believe that there shall be innovation and maybe revolution on all licenses, regulations, fees, and let us name it role playing of each one and share of each one to keep the model on win-win basis. And this will definitely increase towards correct directions. There is no resistance. The future is going ICET, as Mr. Hanna said, and it will really mean that we have a lot to say from technology point of view, renewable enhancement point of view, and too many other factors that will bring our future with less carbon emission. We need to improve our carbon footprint indeed. That's all from my side. Until Dr. Firas come back from his disconnection, maybe I will turn the mic to Mr. Omar or Mr. Rashid or the next gentleman. Mr. Omar, maybe you can go ahead with your vision until Dr. Firas gets back.
Yes, he's back.
Yeah, maybe you can go ahead, Mr. Omar.
Yes, to summarize this, انه the technologies is there. Okay, the technologies that what we are talking about is already there. I know you mentioned a real good point that about delivery sometimes doesn't meet what the government or distribution are looking for. They are always said it's within the R&D centers, but if we're talking now, the technology is here, technology is ready, and we execute some kinds of projects and ideas in there. So my summarizing thing is that we need this more collaboration between either developers of the projects and distribution companies side and the government. When I'm talking about distribution, it's distribution along with NEPCO or AMRC. We need these workshops to make it happen. So at least the engineers and the people who's working on these ideas, it will be more clearly, and we can understand exactly what is the benefits of using storage, for example, projects in Jordan.
Thank you, Omar. Yes, Mr. Mahmoud, can you give us your vision again regarding the storage and the future of the storage in Jordan?
Yeah. In short, I would like to say there is no expansion in renewable energy projects, especially in Jordan, without depending on energy storage. Our grid is not stable at all, so we have to be forced to use energy storage. So it's coming sooner or later. We have to depend on energy storage.
Thank you for everybody. Thank you. The session is closed, and thanks. Thank you very much. I appreciate your participation.
Sir, I'd also like to ask Mr. Rashid, sir, to please give his closing remarks.
So from my side, I believe that like a cooperation between manufacturers, grid operators, AMRC regulatory, and also EPCs and developers is a necessity in order to stabilize the grid. So basically, we have the technology, we have the capabilities of our engineers, such as Mr. Ghaith Khza'i and other engineers that are operating on our grid. And also the EPCs that have already the know-how to operate on such C&I projects and energy storage projects. So in that matter, I think the only thing that we need is a cooperation between these parties in order to make our grid more stable, to make our grid more sustainable, and at the end of the day, to benefit everybody. It's a win-win situation, I believe.
Thank you, Rashid. Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Anand, your...
Yes, sir. So,
Yeah, please.
so we also have few questions in here. I'll just show on the screen. So the first question we have is, how do you see the
This
impact of
question had been covered by Engineer Ghaith. He talked about that. Both the questions and regarding the lifetime of the battery had been covered by Mr. Mahmoud Abwardi. Yes, both questions had been covered.
Okay, thank you, sir. So with this, we have come to the end of the discussion. Thank you very much, all the experts for their insightful session, and a very special thanks to Firas sir and also Ghaith sir for wonderfully managing the discussion. So with this, we have come to the end of this virtual event. Thank you everyone for extending your time.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate
Have a nice
it.
day.
A special thanks to our partners Huawei and Solis Depot for extending their immense support to organize this event. We promise to come back with more exciting topics very soon. The floor is now open for networking.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.